Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if this is your first time. If it is your first time and you like this video, then please have a little rummage and see what you can find, see if you like the videos, and subscribe if you do like the videos. If you don't like the videos, you're welcome to subscribe anyway. So, yeah, this is a video that I need to stop doing response videos, but I wasn't going to do a video for a while. I was going to leave some gaps, try not to spam YouTube, but Michael Cavorn has just done a video which is part of his Essentials series, and this one's talking about the novelisations of the first 3 Star Wars films. And he talks about how important Star Wars is to him and how great those books are, and talks a bit about Alan Dean Foster and what a great novelisation expert he is. And I couldn't help it. I needed to do a video. So for several reasons. So me and Mike have chatted about Star Wars, and I was quite pleased to see that he liked a lot of the films. Sometimes you have a conversation with someone about Star Wars, and it gets like bogged down with someone going on and on about what they hate. And I am definitely much more of a half full rather than half empty person when I review films. And if I don't like something about the film, it doesn't normally ruin it for me. And just in case, I apologise if this is spoilers, but I definitely didn't think Palpatine should have come back. But most things about the Star Wars films I love. And the first 3 films, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, I absolutely love so much. Can't say how much I love them. But like Mike, I was the right age, and I got obsessed when I was a kid, and I had Star Wars everywhere. I've said this before on my channel, so apologies if you've seen me say this before, but it's leading up to me talking about something else. But I absolutely loved Star Wars to death as a kid. I was 6 when it came out. I was exactly the right age. It just blew my mind, and just loved it. And because of that, I have really, really vivid memories of me reading the books. And not just reading the books, like I've said before about physical media, I remember the feel of the books. I remember what it feels like to hold the books. The Star Wars book had a particular smell as well. And also the Return of the Jedi one had a particular smell as well. And there was something so special about it. I think it was because I was aware that reading these words on these pages was literally transporting me. It was taking me somewhere else, and I just couldn't believe it. Taking me somewhere truly different, truly wondrous. And the thing is, one thing that I've never said before that I think is kind of interesting is that it is the one of the more powerful memories I've got of going to camp with Cub Scouts. I used to be in the Scouts, and I was in the Cubs before I was in the Scouts, and that was my own experience of camping before I started being a working musician and playing in festivals and stuff. Camping was, for me, it was like a Cubs and Scouts thing when I was a kid. And I distinctly remember, really, really clearly remember reading Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and E.T. I remember those ones I read on Scout Camp. I remember reading them in the tent in Scout Camp really vividly. So I don't remember that much about those days, but I remember that. And it was so brilliant. And these novelisations really do make these films come to life. And the timing of Mike talking about this is interesting because I've just read this. So this is The Force Awakens by Alan Dean Foster. So I was going to just keep this under the radar and talk about it on the monthly roundup. But hey, I've got a reason to talk about this for a minute. And I really like this film. So apologies. Should I apologise? I don't know. Apologies if you think it's just a ridiculous film that was a bit lazy with the plotting, with the Death Star element, and you didn't like the new characters, blah, 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 blah. But I love so much about this film. I like the 3 new characters, Finn, Rey and Poe. I like them. I quite liked the damaged villain of Kylo Ren as well. I quite like that. It kind of works in the first film. I think it gets watered down and is a little bit not quite as good as the series progresses. BB-8 was lovely. Love BB-8. And the things they did with the original cast in this film was awesome. I also didn't get the film spoiled, which is fantastic. So there were rumours. Oh, how much can I spoil in this conversation? There are rumours about a character dying in the film before I saw the film. And I was aware that might happen. I was readying myself for that to happen. And then, thanks to me not having it spoiled, a different character died that I wasn't expecting. So it was a real shock. I remember it was a proper gasp. And luckily, the other people in the cinema at the time hadn't had it spoiled either. And it was a real gasp. And it was quite upsetting. But... and I might have said this before, but it's just a weird thing. I've never experienced anything like it before in my life. Seeing a film. At the end of the film, when Luke appears, I don't think it's a massive spoiler to say Luke appears at the end. When he appears at the end, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about him and his place in my heart, if you like, as an adult, I guess, because this is only, not that many years ago. But he turns around in the scene, raised, holding out the lightsaber. He turns around and I wept like crazy. I was crying so much. And my kids and my wife are going, "You're right." My daughter next to me going, "You're right, Dad." And I was like, I don't know what's going on. But there was something so powerful about seeing him on screen again as Luke Skywalker. It was just huge to me. So yeah, Star Wars, man, and that character, I think probably more than anything else. I think I did actually mention this. I mentioned that when I talked about that video I did about religion and storytelling and narratives, and I talked about Luke then, I think. So yeah, I have said that before. So apologies if I'm repeating myself, but it's such a weird thing to have happened, so unexpected. But yeah, I do love lots of things about this film. I love the way the Millennium Falcon's used in it. That whole thing where they you see it, they avoid it when they're going towards it, and then the ship they're going to go towards blows up. And they go, "Oh, we have to go to this ship instead." And you're like, "Yes!" And then they use it, and then it ends up being how they end up involved with Han and Chewbacca, which is great. So there's lots of things that are great. I mean, I like the humour in it. I like Poe's humour in it. His like cocky sarcasm. I love there was some great lines where Chewbacca was clearly saying something. A lot of it was goading Han Solo, and the reply made it obvious what Chewbacca had said. There's loads of those. There's some great lines like that in it. But anyway, lots of good things about it. But as a novelisation, this was good. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Didn't really add a lot to the film. So if you love the film, you'd like it. But I think if you've seen the film, you don't really get a lot from reading it. That's my very quick, brief summary of this. So there are a couple of extra scenes in it, but they're really peripheral scenes that don't add that much. But you don't necessarily expect that from novelisation. You can get that from a novelisation, but usually a novelisation is a prose way of telling the story, the same story, which is what it does. It tells the same story. You get the character's thoughts more because you can do that in novels. So sometimes it's interesting to get Rey's thoughts and to get Poe's thoughts in particular, I think. But yeah, that's what I've just read. So I wanted to kind of talk about the fact that I'm going to bookend that, by the way, this video with that and some other possibilities for Filmtastic February, which is why I read that. So I could read some others. But I wanted to just have a quick nod to the photo novels, which I've mentioned before I definitely would have mentioned it in the library tour stuff I've been doing. But I think I mentioned it when I did a general video about Star Trek. And this is an example of the Star Trek photo novels. And it's basically like a comic version of the episodes, but with photos rather than an artist drawing. That's McCoy. That looks like he's going, "Khan!" But he's not saying that because it's a different thing. So yeah, these were cool. I've got some of these. I'd like to have all of them. So I've got 3 now. But yeah, I think this is cool. And this is like a novelisation in a way, but it's not with words, but with photos. And I had one of these for Close Encounters of the Third Kind as well. So going back to that early period of my life where I was reading novelizations, and like my early period of voluntary reading, if you like. So obviously you go right back, and you got Dr. Seuss and all that, but then you start reading stuff for school, and there's a few things in school reading that no one ever talks about, that I might talk about later. I don't know. I'll just throw this out there. See how many English people can recognise this. The Whiz Kids Handbook, the Whiz Kids Handbook, and the Secret Agent's Handbook. Did anyone read those? I remember having them, and drew all over them as well for some reason. Anyway, so that this early period of reading, when you're reading this stuff designed for young people, and I'd read these novelizations. So just a quick rundown of some of the things I definitely remember reading. There may be a few others, but I definitely remember that this was a big part of my early reading. So I read Star Wars several times, and as I said, I have these very vivid memories of reading these in Scout Camp, but I want to mention it again because I read it several times. But also, another book I read a number of times, actually, when I was young. I just kept reading it because I really loved it, and that's the Battlestar Galactica book. So again, another one I have a real memory of how it felt to hold it, which again, I think it's the thing about physical media. I think it matters. So yeah, it's a really lovely memory that I've always had. You know, nostalgic thing, nostalgia, we are talking about that in a way with this thing. A lot of this is nostalgia, absolutely. So, I mean, clearly that wasn't. I've just finished it. But also, Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, which I mentioned before. Close Encounters, the actual novel of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, as well as the photo novel. E.T. I read E.T. as well. Gremlins. So these are some of my favourite films. So Gremlins, I read the novelisation of that when I was a kid. And Ghostbusters, I read the novelisation of Ghostbusters as well, another favourite. And another one that's not necessarily one of my favourite films, but I definitely remember reading it and really enjoying it, and that's The Black Hole. So I read the novelisation of The Black Hole as well. So yeah. I also remember reading The Omen. I wrote that down on my little list, The Omen, but a slightly different kind of film. But I did read the novelisation of The Omen as well. So there we go. It's a big part of my childhood. It was nice to dip into another novelisation with this. Potentially, I could carry on with this Filmtastic February with some Star Trek novelisations. So I've got more than this, but I'll just pick these up to show off in the video. So there's somewhere I've got the motion picture. There's Wrath of Khan, which I'm really tempted to read because it's such a brilliant film, and it'll be interesting to see whether there's other. I think I've heard that there are extra stuff in this, so they've done a good job of adding really good, relevant, interesting stuff into the novelisation. So there's that, and then there's the Search for Spock as well, which is slightly bigger. Search for Spock, which is another great film, and it's much better than it should be, considering it's an attempt to correct something that happened in the previous film. So there's Search for Spock, and then there's The Voyage Home, which you would imagine would have lots of humour in it because the film is very humorous. I could read that. But anyway, I think it's an interesting subject, and it's a subject that people like Andrew from It Came From The Page champions novelisations, but not many people do. And it's probably seen as a little bit of a hack job because you're obviously, you've got it written for you and you're just fleshing it out. So I can see why that would be seen as a hack job. But you can do it well and be good at it. And I know Andy Foster's just a good writer anyway. He's written loads of stuff that's not novelisations as well. But he has written tons and tons of novelisations. So, yeah, I'd like to get hold of the very, very recommended and applauded novelisation he did of The Thing, which, if you look it up, is well expensive now. But I'd like to find that. I've never read that. But there we are. Just thought I'd talk about it because it definitely resonated with me, what that video was. I love Star Wars to pieces, and I find the whole subject of novelizations interesting because it really spearheaded my interest in reading, and those ones that I've mentioned that I read in Scout Camp and just after that really made a big difference to me. So, big shout out to the power of the novelization to get you reading. Thanks a lot for watching. Stay curious, everybody. Bye.